Hello, everybody. Welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. Sorry for making you wait a couple days between work / my internship and just me trying to gather my thoughts from the unfathom on what we did Sunday night against the Chiefs. I've just been really trying to soak things in and gather everything. Today, I'm finally here to bring it all to you guys, and I mean all of it. Now, this isn't going to be like the typical thing, the typical game recap, where if you've been with me all season on this podcast, you know, stuck up, stuck down, who's for the game, underdog fantasy player props here and there. We ain't going to do that. We're not going to do that today. I'm just going to go through each position and kind of take a like top down bird's eye view like of each position group and go like quarterback all the way to safety and reflect on the dynamics of each position and of the season, even to kind of highlight the big moments, small moments, ups and downs, all of that. So yeah, this isn't really structured. I don't have any notes at all, which that's very rare if you know me. I like to plan my episodes out. In a couple weeks, though, when we do our Bills season 2023 season review, I should say rather, it will be much more structured and a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? Formal, organized, if you will. But this is just kind of me off the top of the dome, what I'm thinking. Okay, let's start with quarterback, and then we'll work our way all the way to safety and getting to some coaching dynamics. Quarterback. Obviously, you have three guys in that room. Well, I guess two in the active roster and one in the practice squad. We're kind of go over a big view of what they all did. Josh Allen, Kyle Allen is your backup, and then Shane Buechele is your QB3 on your practice squad. Thank God Josh Allen, God forbid, or Kyle Allen, I should say, as the backup, didn't get injured, so Buechele didn't have to come in and do anything. Yeah, Josh Allen, this might sound bold, especially if you're not a Bills fan. I know some people don't agree, but I do think this is Josh Allen's best year of his career. Like his 2020 breakout year, he didn't have nearly as many interceptions, but I would rather have a quarterback that is willing to take those shots down the field, that is willing to put it in harm's way. And I'm not saying like willing to put it in harm's way. Yes, we want that, but like willing to try to at least try and most of the time succeed in those tight windows, whether it be intermediate or down the field. I don't want some noodle on quarterback like Mac Jones or Ryan Tannehill that is just very safe at the ball, or Russell Wilson would rather take a sack and protect his QBR and completion percentage than actually, have a vertical passing game and not force it down the field, but take those shots. I want a heroic quarterback. And Josh Allen, my quarterback of the Buffaloes, is exactly that dude. He's exactly that quarterback. He's willing to take shots. Now, he had 18 interceptions this year, and a lot of them were in the red zone. A lot of them cost us. I mean, this feels like a millennium ago, but a century ago, rather, I should say. But week one against the Jets, he throws three interceptions and a fumble, so 4 turnovers total, all three to safety Jordan Whitehead. Can't do that, Josh. But the reality is, he's never going to have under 12 interceptions. That's like the benchmark. Like he's always got more than 12 interceptions, but that's good. But the red zone offense has to clean up for next year. His red zone kind of management, if you will, has to clean up. I'm not a fan when he forces things in the end zone when he's throwing across his body, but I'm glad he at least is willing to take those shots. And if you remember the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season, we're saying Josh Allen, all he did his first 5 years of his career was run, run, run. And now has the coach, since we gonna have the coaches coach that out of him, it was never about running for me. And I'm sure McDermott, Bean, Ken Dorsey at the time, and then when Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator, which we'll get into him later. Let's just say I'm excited. Did they coach it out of him? It was never about coaching out of him. It was about still running and still being that maniac when you take off with your legs, but not taking big hits. Learn how to slide. Don't initiate helmet-to-helmet contact. Because we saw Cam Newton, you can't just be a battering ram and eventually catches up to you. And by your early 30s, you're out of the league, sitting on your couch and doing nothing. So, I mean, you got to protect yourself. And then after that, especially down the stretch into the playoffs, they really ramped up his rushing ability. He was getting like 10 to 12 rushing attempts easily per game. He was having like 50 plus rushing yard type performances, 2+ rushing touchdown type performances. I mean, he was the guys like you would think of a tush push with the Eagles. I guess we dubbed it the snowplow because Deion Dawkins, whatever. He's the main guy behind that, main catalyst behind that, literally and figuratively. So once design runs for Josh are crucial to unlocking this offense going forward. And that's why I am excited for Joe Brady. Not getting into that too much though till later on. And then with the backup, you do have Kyle Allen and I mentioned Shane Buechele on the practice squad. I don't think Shane Buechele is really a threat to compete for QB2 like ever, even sometime and somewhere down the road. He did sign a reserve/futures deal with us literally 10 minutes before I started recording this. So just before I hopped on here to give you guys this information and record this episode of Around the Slice. But what that means is their cap hit doesn't count against the active roster until free agency opens and a new league year opens. I think this year it's March 15th. So they'll be placed on a 90-man roster after that, but their cap hit doesn't count until the new league year opens, which I think, again, is March 15th this year. So that's good, but at least they want him around. He can be our practice squad QB, that's fine. But here's what I would say. I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's time to draft, if you're McDermott and Bean especially, because he makes a lot of the draft decisions, especially after the first couple rounds, maybe the first 3 rounds with McDermott as input. I think it's finally okay to draft a quarterback on day 3, so rounds 5, 6, and 7, or 4, 5, 6, and 7. But a day 3 quarterback, bottom line, like you think of Sam Hartman, someone of that ilk, someone that can come in, some toolsy guy. I mean, obviously no one's going to be Josh Allen, but someone similar, some toolsy guy that has upside you can develop in your system. You have cost control for 4 years. The main reason why I say it is because I'm not a fan of keep like flip-flopping, going from Mitch Trubisky 1 year and then Case Keenum the next year, and then Matt Barkley the next year, and then Kyle Allen the next year. You got to stop rotating these 1-year rentals at backup QB that you never re-sign. Honestly, I don't want to re-sign Kyle Allen. He's a free agent. Draft a day 3 quarterback and make him similar traits to Josh Allen, a toolsy size guy that you can groom and have cost control for 4 years so the offense doesn't change too much in practice or whatever. So yeah, I fully endorse that. And then Shane Buechele, like I said, he can be on our practice squad quarterback. He's been on the Chiefs. So when we played the Chiefs in the regular season, he probably gave us a few tips on that. And it's just a tradition that we play the Chiefs every year in the regular season all the time. I think they're finally coming to Buffalo for once, though, but that's neither here nor there. He can give tips on that, but he can also be the scout team QB, which that helps out. That's an underrated part of the practice schedule. So, but drafting a quarterback on day 3 with toolsy, upside, size, all that combo is perfectly fine for all the reasons I just laid out. Now let's shift over to the running back room. I'm not going to grade these. Again, these are just right off the top of my head, right off the dome, if you will. Just kind of big picture, bird's eye view. What are we looking at going into the offseason? At running back, let's lay them out. You have James Cook. You have Ty Johnson. You have Latavius Murray. Leonard Fournette had a few week stint, which, whatever, that doesn't matter. He's on the team anymore. Damon Harris had a 5-week stint. So we could see a lot of turnover in this room. Maybe not as much turnover as certain other positions that I will bring up actually momentarily. Actually next, but James Cook, obviously, he is awesome. Once we made the offense coordinator switch from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady, his best ability, if you will, his best part of his game was unlocked, and that's his dynamic receiving ability out of the backfield. He's still a subpar blocking running back when it comes to run blocking, or when it comes to pass blocking, I should say, rather. But that will come in due time. He is only 5'11", 195, sub 200 pounds. I mean, you kind of expect that. That's why, even though I didn't like Latavius Murray, he was clearly, running down. What's the word I'm looking for? Clearly breaking down. There it is. Breaking down as the season went on. They had him in there because of pass blocking. So I'm really encouraged by James Cook. At least he's a willing blocker, kind of like Dalton Kincaid is a willing blocker. So, yeah, I mean, James Cook, he's our locked and loaded RB1. Ty Johnson. He's a free agent this offseason, right? I want him back, and I think he will be back. Ideally, he's not our RB2, but He's great at pass blocking. He's great at returning. He's great on special teams. He's great as a gunner. He can do it all. He's a straight downhill runner. He can receive it out of the backfield, special teams ability, all that. Ideally, he's not your direct backup, your RB2. Ideally, he's your RB3, a change of pace back, which he was for most of this season until Latavius Murray broke down, like I just said. But ideally, you get like a big fish like Derrick Henry, because our running back room, let's be honest, I am not including Josh Allen in this. Other than Josh Allen, let's make clearly, other than Josh Allen, who's a little freak of nature, our running backs in particular, running backs specifically, we don't have a power element to our running backs in our running game. Again, other than Josh Allen. So you get a Derrick Henry in there because he's for sure leaving Tennessee. Or do you get a Gus Edwards in there? I know some people want A.J. Dillon. I would not. But yeah. Or if you swing and miss on both those guys, if Gus Edwards returns to Baltimore, and if Derrick Henry goes to another really good fit like Philadelphia with the Eagles or Dallas with the Cowboys, or he goes to Dallas rather, if you swing and miss on both, maybe you draft like an Audric Estime or Blake Corum in the 3rd or 4th round. Maybe not explosive running backs or goal line running backs, but ideally Ty Johnson is back as your RB3. I really, really liked what I saw, and he didn't miss a single game. Well, he did with one minor shoulder injury, but that was just out of precaution. So I really liked he was running the ball well, especially with the Cowboys. I really liked the 1-2 punch down the stretch with James Cook and Ty Johnson. But like I said, Latavius Murray, he's going to be gone. Damian Harris, he's going to be gone. The one X factor on this, I almost forgot about this guy, is Nyheim Hines. I thought he would be cut to save money, but it sounds like Brandon Breen's presser today, which it's an hour long on the Bills YouTube channel. I just saw the notes and stuff from the beat reporters. I thought Nyheim Hines would be cut, as many others did. I'm sure you did, because the whole jet ski incident, whatever. I think he'll be back now because being said, we anticipate him. I'm no doctor, but we anticipate him to be ready for training camp and for him to be back in the fold, if you will, in 2024. So Damon Harris out, Latavius Murray out, Ty Johnson in, James Cook lead running back. Preferably, you get like a Derrick Henry or a Gus Edwards, or draft a younger back in the 3rd or 4th round on day 2 or early day 3 of the draft, to make it worthwhile and having that power element to your running game. But like I said, Nyheim Hines is the whole X factor in this whole running back room discussion. But I'm encouraged by Bean's comments that he won't be cut. He didn't directly say he won't be cut, but when he says he'll be ready by training camp and we anticipate him to be on the team and fully contribute for us next year in 2024 season, that gives me hope that he will be on this team. Let's go to wide receiver now. I think you could argue, not just argue, I think it is a fact that this is going to be the positional / room that has the most roster turnover. When you look at spots that are aging and spots that we need to get younger and cheaper, and wide receiver comes, well, maybe not younger, but definitely cheaper. Wide receiver comes to mind. Obviously, you have Stephon Diggs. Now, I hate to say this, but guys like CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown have passed them in the picking order of best wide receivers in the NFL. But I don't know if Stephon Diggs could be like a true alpha 1A anymore, like his prime years, his first few years in Buffalo. But he could be a 1B for sure. But you still have Stephon Diggs and Khalil Shakir. Now, hear me out here, guys. Hear me out. Khalil Shakir is interesting to me because I don't know if he can be elevated to a wide receiver 2 role. If you think back to the 2022 season, Gabe Davis is elevated from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 2. Isaiah McKenzie elevated from wide receiver 4 to that main slot presence of wide receiver 3 of that ilk. And they kind of disappointed. Not kind of. They did disappoint big time. Gabe Davis disappointed more, but they both really, really disappointed. So I don't know if Khalil Shakir will sustain the volume he can to be wide receiver 2. But Stephon Diggs in, Khalil Shakir in, and then everyone else, like, I'm not sweating bullets over it. Gabe Davis, someone will overpay him because for his size. I use air quotes because, like, he's worth $10 million a year. His Patrick value, market value, schedules him at $13 million a year. Yeah, good luck. If you can get that, amen to you, man. You go do that. And then Deontay Hardy can be cut and save a little over $4 million, almost $4.5 million, give or take. So he's gone. Trent Sherfield, not going to re-sign, free agent. He's gone. Interestingly enough, though, we did sign Andy Isabella and KJ Hamler to reserve / futures contracts. And who else was it that I saw? Tyrell Shavers and Brian Thompson. But those are all like bottom of the barrel guys. So Ideally, those are like wide receivers 5 and 6, and maybe even 7 at best. And Justin Shorter, he's the one guy I'm kind of looking forward to as a 4th and 5th round pick out of Florida this past year. So 2023 draft, I should say, rather. So who knows? He's been on IR all year, but I'm looking to, a lot of turnover in this room. You have Stefan Diggs. Oh, here's the pecking order ideally I'd want for this offense. Stefan Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, Stefan Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir. No, sorry. Stefan Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, a new wide receiver, young blood, if you will. And I think that new wide receiver, here, now this might sound crazy, but if Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze somehow, some reason follow the top 10, could do whatever it takes to go get them. Do it. Like, it's time for Bean to be aggressive. Enough messing around with all these experiments. You can't just run it back every year. We trust what we have. We trust what we have. I know your regime, you trust this and that, but you got to get. I mean, you saw what young players can do on offense. I just mentioned James Cook and Khalil Shakir. Add to that, but if you can't trade up and get Neighbors in the Doomsday, again, do whatever it takes. But 80, we're drafting at 28, so 80 Mitchell and Keon Coleman would be great fits as well. I mean, 80 Mitchell is one of my early draft crushes in January, so he's a really, really great ball skills guy. He's a fluid route runner as well. Keon Coleman moves well at 6'4", so those guys of that ilk, if you will. And then you sprinkle in guys like Dawson Knox and James Cook and Ty Johnson and those guys. So I think this is going to have a lot of turnover. And then maybe your bargain bin, you get a bargain bin signing. You have to find value signings like a veteran signee, if you will. Like, find your John Brown and Cole Beasley type signing. I mean, Cole Beasley was a great value for the small-ish contract we signed him to. I mean, he was a second-team All-Pro in 2019, his first year in Buffalo. So, I mean, find someone of that. Deontay Hardy, I think he got overpaid. I didn't like it when we initially signed him to that big contract for his standards. And Trent Sherfield, I didn't understand it either. So you have to find that next value signing because Deontay Hardy's going to be cut and Trent Sherfield ain't coming back. He's not coming back, guys. Sorry. So, yeah, we just have to find our next bargain bin signing and go from there. It all depends on how, like if Joe Brady sees our offensive coordinator, I could very well see Terrace Marshall Jr. sliding into that wide receiver 4/5 role just because I think he is a bargain bin signing. He's not a veteran, but he's been in the league for 3 or 4 years now. He played with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and that god of a team with Joe Burrow at LSU in 2019 National Championship team. So Joe Burrow coordinated him. I think you're probably trending towards that. And then I would love T. Higgins. I would love Michael Pitt Jr. I love Mike Evans, but they'll probably want too much. Or if Mike Evans, if you want to go get younger and cheaper, and you don't want Mike Evans at 32 years old, going to be 33 next year during the season, then that's fine, I guess. But that's just how I'm feeling about the wide receivers, and there's going to be a lot of turnover in this room. Now, tight ends, I don't think you have to touch it. Quentin Morris is an exclusive rights free agent. He'll be back. I don't know how that exactly works, but it's basically like you have their rights, and if someone signs them to an offer sheet, kind of like restricted free agents, then you have like 48 hours to match or whatnot. He'll be back, though. No one's going to go out and want to get Quentin Morris. I wouldn't touch this tight end room. Dalton Kincaid is your rising superstar. Yes, I'm going that far. Superstar. Dawson Knox is your tight end 2, and then Quentin Morris is your tight end 3 as a core special teamer on his team, elite special teamer. After seeing 2 tight end sets when they were both healthy for most of the season, a good chunk of the season, I'm not a fan of the 2 tight end sets, the 12 personnel. I do not want Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox to what's the term I'm looking for? To start at the same time. Dawson Knox can come in on certain packages and run blocking because he's a very good run blocker, but Dalton Kincaid is becoming an average run blocker as well. Not up to snuff yet, if you will. Just like I said about James Cook, but he's a willing and young blocker. And then Quentin Morris and some like jumbo packages. And then David Edwards is that jumbo tight end sometimes. But I don't want 2 tight ends to field at once because it takes away from Khalil Shakir. It takes away from Khalil Shakir's targets and forces you to have to get both of them involved. But on obvious running downs, like in winning situations close to end zone. Yeah, it does make sense. And Dawson Knox is still one of the best, if not the best, without Gabe Davis, red zone threat on this team. So I wouldn't touch tight end. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Quentin Morris. Leave it at that. Bottom line, move on. Next, offensive line. Let's start with tackles. I thought again, stepping back a little, pulling back the curtain. I think this was our best offensive line under Josh Allen by far. There are really no weak spots. The only game where they really struggled was against the Patriots, but they had some speedy guys over there with Josh Uche in them, Christian Barmore. Cyrus Torrance did hit a wall in the middle of the season, but he bounced back very nicely the last few games and into the playoffs against the Steelers even, where he did very well against Alex Highsmith off the edge, Cam Hayward on the interior. I think Spencer Brown has had a breakout year at tackle, even though no one really knows his tackle is having a breakout year. I don't know if he's our franchise tackle yet, but Deion Dawkins, Connor McGovern, Mitch Morse at center. People have been talking about cutting him to save money. Do not touch Mitch Morse. When you're left on his deal, let him play out the deal and retire. If anything, I would look at extending him a year early, but we can talk about that after. And then you have Osiris Torrance and then Spencer Brown. And then you have depth like Ryan Bates, David Edwards coming in for the jumbo tight end role. And he can start left guard or right guard for, God forbid, McGovern and or Torrance ever hurt. And then you have developmental guys like Tommy Doyle. We'll see how he is tearing his ACL twice in a row, both in preseason games. I mean, that's just brutal. And then developmental guys like Alec Anderson, Jermaine Effetti in your practice squad, Kevin Jarvis in your practice squad, a couple guys in your practice squad that you've been developing in-house, Ryan Vandemark, you've been grooming behind Deion Dawkins, a lot of guys that can cross-play. What I mean by that is they can play tackle and guard. Some can play all three, like Ryan Bates, and he can play guard and center, mostly ideally center, but in a pinch he can play tackle. Because when he first came to Buffalo, he was a tackle. So I really, really like that makeup of our offensive line group. And the good thing is all 5 starters from left to right are under contract through next year. And if you extend Spencer Brown after next year too, the next 2 years. But for now, all 5 starters are under contract for next year. So that's the great thing about offensive line having the best years their careers individually and was overall under Josh Allen. Next, where do we go next? Let's jump over to defensive line. I'm going to separate defensive tackle and then edge/defensive end. Let's go to defensive tackle next. And there's only one guy under contract here, Ed Oliver. Everyone else is free agents. Daquan Jones, free agent. Daquan Jones, free agents. Tim Settle, free agent. Poona Ford, free agent. Jordan Phillips, free agent. Linval Joseph, free agent. Jordan Phillips did say today this might be it. Yesterday, this might be it, alluding to him probably retiring, which fine. All he does is hype up the crowd. Yeah, come on, get his arms going, and he doesn't do much of anything. Poona Ford was signed to rot in the bench. I would love for them to re-sign them to re-sign him, but I mean it's not going to happen. We know how they view him. And Tim Settle, he's going to be gone. He doesn't provide much stuff. I know. I've said in the past, I'm going to say it now, I'm not going to stress out too much about re-signing 30-plus-year-old players and stress out too much about re-signing these old guys north of 30, but because I do think we need to get younger and cheaper in multiple spots, less positions, /rooms, and infuse some youth in those areas. So, but Daquan Jones is the exception. I know he's 32, going to be 33 years old next year during the season. But without him, we're looking real thin. Ideally, you have Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Poona Ford, and then you draft a toolsy defensive tackle and run 2 or 3 like T'Vondre Sweat or Byron Murphy, both from Texas, even though I doubt they'll be there. Maybe Brandon Dorless from Oregon if you're looking at second-round guys. But those would be my main targets in the draft. But Poona Ford probably won't be back, but re-sign Daquan Jones is a must. High priority, in my opinion. He's the one exception to the thing I just said, where I'm not going to be stressing out too much about signing 30-plus-year-old guys north of 30 like that. So, speaking of guys north of 30, edge group. One guy that stands out, Leonard Floyd. I know he had 10 sacks, so we want him back, but you can't have everybody back. If you keep Von Miller, you want to re-sign AJ Epinesa. Leonard Floyd isn't getting re-signed. And honestly, AJ Epinesa had a really breakout season. Good thing we traded Boogie Basham, who apparently was playing defensive back for the Giants and barely even played. I literally didn't see him play ever. But AJ Epinesa, I would try to resign. I value him at like what, 5 to 7 million a year, maybe 6 to 8, 8 minimum or minimum, 8 million a year maximum. If someone wants to give him like a 3 year, like $30 million deal, 10 a year, just like AJ Davis, amen. You go do that. Like hallelujah to you, whatever. But I really want him back, and you can't cut Von Miller. We can talk about that next offseason, but the dead cap money and cap hit will be just way, way looming too large. I mean, that would put us in financial, let's be honest, financial hell for the next 2 or 3 years. He did he did show some promise in the playoffs and the Steelers. He had a couple nice spin moves, and then he had his best game of the season, in my opinion, against the Chiefs. Again, really low bar to clear, not too impressive, but he had a couple of nice tackles for loss, one or two tackles for no gain. He was close in a sack or two, at least one that I noticed. So, yeah, Von Miller stays, but the only ones under contract for next year are Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, and Kingsley Jonathan. Kingsley Jonathan's whatever. Shaq Lawson, I appreciate him a lot. I don't know if I want him back, but I don't know if they view him that way because he's only good in Buffalo. Maybe he's not the pass rush technician he used to be, but he's such a great run stuffer and great run defender along with Greg Rousseau off the edge. Speaking of Greg Rousseau, you have until like May 5th, first week of May, at least May 5th, somewhere around there, to pick up the fifth year options and the 2021 first round draft picks. After the 30, you got to decide. So, I mean, we pretty easily pick that up, and I think they will. So you'll have Greg Rousseau and Von Miller and Kingsley Jonathan, and I don't think Leonard Floyd's going to be back, unfortunately. Shaq Lawson will have to see, but there's going to be a lot of turnover in this defensive line. But good on Oliver for outplaying his contract of $17 million per year. He's like what, the 16th highest paid defensive tackle in the league. And if we just let him go, Christian Wilkins is turning towards getting 25 a year, having the best season of his career. Maybe not by far, but he is for the Dolphins. Ed Oliver would make 25 a year easily, as he had a better year than Christian Wilkins, in my opinion. Should have made All-Pro, at the very least Pro Bowl. He didn't make either. He was mad about it. I agree with him. There's going to be a lot of turnover on this defensive line. And then a linebacker, there's a lot of bodies to sort through here. Let's get the easy ones out of the way. Tyler Matakevich, like, thank you for your service. Thank you for your special teams, like, service. But since the NFL isn't valuing special teams, like, as much anymore, especially if they keep the kickoff rule in place for next year, but I don't see how they can. But if they do, then, like, let's, like, just let them go. I mean, you can't keep around special teams only players forever if that's the only thing they're good at. And the NFL's devaluing special teams as it goes along here. And then the interesting one to me, the big X factor in all of this is Tyrell Dodson. Now, listen, he is a free agent, unrestricted. So, I mean, I feel like he wants to be a starter, but at the same time, I feel like he is fine with being a spot starter in Buffalo. He's horrible. Let's be honest. Like, candidly, he's horrible in coverage. He ain't doing that for you. But his downhill ability and sack ability really, really shows. Tackles for loss, tackles at the last scrimmage for no gain, sacks even, QB pressures, QBS, all that. But since we drafted Dorian Williams and Matt Milano will be back next year, Dorian Williams, Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard. Speaking of Terrell Bernard will be the starting linebacker duo next year, and then you should have Dorian Williams as your third linebacker. So I think this linebacker unit will look like, I wouldn't have Tyrell Dodson back, but I wouldn't mind it either way. I wouldn't give him more like a $2-3 million deal. Like, if he wants to get $8 million a year or $10 million a year even from someone, then fine. I guess I'll go up to 5, budge a little, but like, these linebackers next year will be looking like Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, Balin Spector. So there's 4 right there. And I think you feel comfortable with those 4. And maybe I want groom Balin Spector. I've been saying this since the summer. Groom Balin Spector be the next Tyler Matakevich, who just sticks around and keeps signing 1-year deals when their initial rookie deal is up, like Tyler Matakevich was, just for special team services. Next, secondary and cornerback and safety. Let's start with cornerback. There's a lot here. There's not going to be as much transition, but there's questions about every single one of these guys. Tre'Davious White tears his ACL, then comes back for not even half a year, 3 weeks in the season, then tears his ACL. or tears his Achilles, second major injury. I don't know what to expect from him. Again, they can't cut him, kind of like Von Miller's situation, although White is still injured. Dead cap hit, all that. I know people say isn't real, cap space isn't real, but what is real is dead cap and the money you have to eat. The Saints have been pushing it back and back for years. They might finally have to bite the bullet, if you will. But we're not here to talk about the Saints. I don't know what to expect from White. And then Kyer Elam, was that just a one-off against Pittsburgh? Is he really that good? He's not a bust. I still think he is very good, but again, they don't like to play him apparently. And then Rasul Douglas, yes, I know he's 31, but you'll probably have to restructure his contract, but you're not cutting him. And then who else? Christian Benford. Do you switch him over to safety? Because I think, yes, you probably do, because your corner duo can be Rasul Douglas and what was I saying? Rasul Douglas and Tre'Davious White. Trey White for next year is your 1-2 at corner, respectively. Christian Benford can move over to safety, and you have Kyer Elam fitting that Dane Jackson role. I wouldn't re-sign Dane Jackson, by the way, as an unrestricted free agent. I know they love him, but it just prolongs the Kyer experiment thing and complicates things once again, like even more. So move Christian Benford at safety. I think he deserves a shot at those after Poyer and Hyde, which we'll get to in a minute with the safety conversation. And then Taron Johnson's still your slot. And then you can have Cam Lewis / Siran Neal if they don't cut him for cap savings. But Siran Neal, another core special teamer. But you're going to have to make some decisions with these core special teamers like Siran Neal, like Tyler Medikiewicz. So that's how our corner room is shaking out. There's not going to be much turnover, but there's questions on every single one of these guys. Maybe not Rasul Douglas and Taron Johnson, but other than that, every single one, whether it's injury, playing time, free agency, re-sign, all that. So now let's go over to safety, our last position here. Kind of just, again, free-flowing thoughts from quarterback all the way down to safety now. I'm looking at Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. I think they played their last days in Buffalo. I think the Chiefs game was for both of them, the last days of Buffalo. I think for sure Mike Hyde, he's a free agent. I don't think he's coming back for even the NFL. He said it's undecided right now, but his wife, Amanda Hyde, sure did make it seem like he was retiring, thanking Bills Mafia, going on and on. This one felt like, yeah, sure, she does that on Instagram every year, but this one felt extra special to her and Micah. So, every time the guy gets hit, his arm, he loses feeling in his arm and sustains a neck injury like every other week, I feel like. So he's considered retirement before, after his serious neck injury in 2022. That forced him to miss the whole season, within 2 weeks. So, yeah. And then Jordan Poyer, I think they're going to cut him to save money. So Cam Lewis is a free agent. So the only ones that I think will be here next year are DeMar Hamlin, and then re-sign Cam Lewis as an unrestricted free agent. I think Cam Lewis deserves a shot, man, to be one of the starting safeties. As recent as last year and 1920, next year will be a 6th year in Buffalo. He just finished his 5th year. They just keep signing 1-year deals after his initial undrafted UDFA contract fizzled out there from UB, Buffalo, local kids. So, they like that. That's always a plus, positive, if you will. So, yeah, I think he deserves a shot to be one of the starting safeties. And then if you don't get a receiver in round 1, Cam Kinchins is very, very intriguing. So there's going to be here are my 3 things for this offseason. You got to get a vertical passing attack. Like Stefan Diggs is 30, going to be 31 November, so during the season next year. You got to take that into account. You got to get a vertical passing attack. You got to get guys that can win downfield, not guys that can win in contested catch situations and can't separate much and are just not very shifty. Got to get guys that flat burners and can get downfield like Keon Coleman, A.D. Mitchell, and like I said, if Malik Neighbors and or Rome Odunze somehow, some reason, hell, fall out of the top 10, do whatever it takes. Time to be aggressive. I don't care, man. Unless we're giving up 2 future first-round picks, I don't care. So go get that. Secondly, younger and cheaper. The only exception to that is Daquan Jones, like I said, because our defensive tackle room, even though he's 31, he was playing elite to start the year. Big run stuffer, and surprisingly a good sack artist, if you will. So there's that. And then thirdly, I just think a lot of these rooms will have transition. I think about running back, I think about wide receiver, I think about safety, especially Hyde and Poyer. Like, I'll never forget what they did for Buffalo. They changed the culture immediately. They're McDermott's and Beans guys, especially McDermott. When he was there day one, they were there day one. And I think, well, let's transition to the coordinators conversation. This is the first time under Bean and McDermott, the current regime, McBean, if you will. Funny thing, McBean regime, if you will, that we're going to have to find 3 new coordinators. So it's in transition. Joe Brady, I say remove the interim tag unless he gets the Falcons head coaching job, which sounds like Bill Belichick's going there, or they haven't interviewed Mike Vrabel yet, or maybe they have, but I would personally want Mike Vrabel if I were at Arthur Blank, the owner over there in Atlanta, and Terry Fontenot, the GM there. But maybe they're interviewing Vrabel if they do interviewing Brady. If they do hire Belichick, they can go back to Brady after Belichick inevitably retires from coaching in a couple years in the NFL. But back to the Bills, I would, if he's available, I would remove the interim tag and hire Joe Brady permanently. You can enjoy him for a year, and then he'll go be someone's head coach most likely. Defensive coordinator, I know McDermott probably won't want to give it up, but you got to give it up. Maybe look at Mike Vrabel to be defensive coordinator, but I doubt he's willing. I'll never say never, but again, I doubt he's willing to move down a level from head coach. Maybe he's willing to be a head coach in college football, but I highly doubt he's willing to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL. And like I said, I would hire him if I were the Falcons, like right away, get him on the phone there, Arthur Blank. But Terry Fontenot, the GM, owner and GM over there, respectively. But yeah, and then for defense coordinator, or most likely I would promote Bobby Babbitt's linebackers coach. But the Giants did request to interview him, and they're going to interview him for their open defensive coordinator job. Joe Schoen is over there. Brian Dable's over there. Shea Tierney, a QB coach. There's a lot of Bills staff nucleus, if you will, over there in New York with the Giants in New Jersey there. So I am really concerned that they're going to poach him, and nothing malicious, but he'll probably get interviewed by the Eagles too, among other teams that need a new defensive coordinator. Maybe even the Raiders if Antonio Pierce doesn't want to keep Patrick Graham. Seahawks as they're exploring other options. A lot of guys, so I would promote him. If Bills don't make Bobby Babich defensive coordinator, someone else will, which scares me. And everything the guy touches turns to gold. I mean, he was the safeties coach in Mike Hyde and Jordan Poyer became like stars here in Buffalo when they first got here. Became absolute pillars and stars for this team. And then when he moves over to linebacker, he inherits Matt Milano. That didn't really need much coaching because it's Matt Milano, but he makes Terrell Bernard who he is. He makes Terrell Dodson have easily his best year of his career. It's an former undrafted free agent. Tremaine Edmonds, he makes him have the best year of his career, helps him get overpaid by the Bears, for being honest. Yes, overpaid, but best year of his career. So I would promote Bobby Babich. Mike Vrabel would be a dream, but I don't think he's willing to do that. So I would promote Bobby Babich. And then you got to evaluate special teams coordinator, man. You just got to evaluate it with Matthew Smiley. I mean, 1 second you're going from best special teams unit in the NFL, number 1, probably bottom 10 at the very least. Honestly, probably bottom 5 this year statistically if you dig into the stats and stuff. So, and it wasn't just kicking and punting with Tyler Bass and Sam Martin, who were horrible in their own right. It wasn't just kicking. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It wasn't just kicking and punting. It was kick and coverage units. I think back to it all started week 1 when they let Xavier Gibson, that speedy rookie for the Jets, return kick and punt. They're always letting teams get good field position. They're nearly letting up returns. They're missing tackles and special teams for the kick and coverage units. I would fire Matthew Smiley, like me personally, if I were Sean McDermott and or Brandon Beane. Mainly Sean McDermott makes that decision. I would, though. And then I would bring in Matt Araiza, the punk guy. All the legal stuff from San Diego State, his college days are over with. It was a baseless claim. Kind of feel bad because he lost his job because of it, but I'm not going into that here. Look it up if you want to. But he's fine now. No charges, no nothing. No court case, anything. So he can come and compete with Sam Marino. Probably win that job, let's be honest. So, I mean, that was good. So we just got to figure out a lot. So there's kind of like my unfiltered. I don't mean unfiltered way like I'm swearing at all the time. I mean like unfiltered, like those are my honest opinions on every position on this team, the coaching dynamics, how the season went. Again, in a couple weeks, we will have our formal season review, and that will be fun. Now, what am I planning for this offseason? We're going to have more guests in the show. We're continuing to grow the show. We can get in some creative stuff, topics, nostalgic topics, not just the Bills. We can do some other free agency predictions for other teams, the NFL as a whole. But first and foremost, lastly, I want to thank you guys for the year. I mean, what an awesome year for this podcast. I started it on video on YouTube, and I will have YouTube exclusives throughout the whole offseason, mainly other than the Bills. The Bills is this podcast. But thank you so much for helping me continue to grow this podcast. I really it means a lot. All the Twitter followers I've gotten because of it, all the publicity I've gotten because of it, all the beat reporters I've been able to meet in person a few times because of it, all the guests I've had over the summer and over the year because of it. We're going to be bigger and better than ever in 2024 in the offseason. Really, we can dig deep and dive deep. We're going to break down a lot of stuff, different stats, different players, different film. Senior Bowl is coming up next week. I mean, draft process really kicking into gear. This is just my favorite time of year. Yes, it is a grind during the season. I have to do 2 episodes a week within 3 days of each other with previews and recaps, especially when you have that short week of Thursday Night Football those couple of times against the Bucs. I think there's only one, but still, you guys are here for all of it, and I can't thank you enough. I mean, not to go sentimental and teary out here, but really, it truly means a lot to me, and I'm just doing my love. So, I mean, thank you for choosing to click play on my video, whatever you're listening on. You can follow me on Twitter at awanganer13. I'll be tweeting an initial reaction before I get onto this podcast, most likely throughout the offseason. You can follow the show at around slice. And then you can support the show on Patreon by going to patreon.com/runtheslice for only $3 a month. You get extra exclusive content. I've kind of not abandoned this year. It's kind of slowed down though. So we're going to ramp that off over the offseason with some exclusive free agency predictions and all that. And then you can listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts, wherever you're listening from, wherever you're listening from. I do appreciate you. We will be back late next week. I'm going to take a little break to kind of gather my thoughts and lay out this offseason for the immediate and near future and just a couple months down the road. It's all offseason. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. This whole year, I know. I mean, the words wide right continue to haunt Bills fans with Scott Norwood and now Tyler Bass. But, I mean, it can only go up from here, right? You got to strip it down. I know some people are mad and yelling that fire McDermott, but I'm not. But, I mean, it's never easy, right? So you just got to believe that, and I'll be back. So thank you for a wonderful, wonderful season. Truly, I really appreciate it, and I'll be back. Bye.